Good morning, twitch.tv/Adobe. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to stream with you this morning for actually the next couple of hours. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, my time, or actually a few seconds before 10 a.m. I like to start a little early. And today is, again, another two-parter. So from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m., I'm going to be doing a how to make interactive ebooks with Adobe InDesign CC. And then at 11 to noon, I'm going to be doing a Creative Cloud Learning Series, Part 2, of Introduction to Photoshop CC. And so you'll definitely want to stick around for that if you want to learn more about Photoshop, especially if you're a beginner. So if you're watching the replay, I'd like to thank you guys for watching the replay and catching this on the replay, whether it's the video on demand at twitch.tv/profile, twitch.tv/Adobe/profile, or if you're watching it on my YouTube channel at terrywhite.tv. No matter where you caught the replay, thanks for watching the replay. If you are a replay watcher, viewer, video on demand person, you'd have to realize that this was a live broadcast, and therefore it's a little bit different than a recorded tutorial where I'm just talking to you. In a live broadcast, I'm talking to the studio audience, or basically the people in chat. So you'll see me do things like this, where I'm looking over and I'm saying, hi Paul, hi Victoria, hey Joris P. Let's see, is StarCrunch in here yet? StarCrunch is not in here yet. Diagen, how are you? So I'm saying hi to the people that are actually live, and they'll be there chatting and talking amongst themselves and asking questions, and moderators will be answering those questions. And if there's a question I need to answer, I'll look over and say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and say, the answer to the question. So let me take a quick second to get things cooking on my end to make sure the stream looks good and healthy. I can see myself there, which is good. I can go ahead and host it on my own channel. And I like to run a quick analysis. Real quick there. And we'll just check one last site to make sure everything is good. All right. So let me also type into the chat. Let me actually type it correctly this time. There we go. And let's kick things off. Okay, I got 2 minutes after the hour, so that means we got 58 minutes left in the stream. And let me again quickly tell you what we're going to do for the people that are just joining in on time. One more quick reset. My name is Terry White. I'm the Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. And today it's my pleasure to stream to you live here at twitch.tv/Adobe. Today I'm going to be streaming on two topics. From 10 to 11, we're going to do how to do interactive ebooks using Adobe InDesign CC. And then we're going to talk about, at 11 to noon, a learning series off Tuesday, Introduction to Photoshop CC, or Introduction to Adobe Photoshop CC. This series is a continuation, so it's like every time I stream on it, we'll pick a different, or I picked a different topic that we'll talk about. So the first one was just how to get around in the interface in Photoshop. Today is how to make selections, or all the various ways of making selections, as many as I can fit in an hour. Probably won't cover them all, but we'll cover the most important ones. So there'll be lots of learning in the second hour, and of course lots of learning in the first hour. Now the first hour is more of a kind of a chill, laid back kind of stream. I usually instruct even when it's laid back, so you'll still learn things hopefully. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, just real quick, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Paul, Belray, StarCrunch, Victoria, Cosmo. All right, awesome. Okay, so let's jump right in so you can see my screen here. And Now, I'm in Adobe InDesign already, and I've got the document up that I'm going to show. But I thought it'd be kind of a more interesting way to do it is if we show the finished product first, and then I'll take it apart and show you how a lot of it was built. So a question right off the bat. Is this very different than InDesign CS6? InDesign itself, as far as using InDesign, is not very different than CS6. But what you'll be missing in CS6 is InDesign CC can make different kinds of ebooks. It can make one of my most important favorite ones is a fixed layout ePUB. And maybe I should start there first. What is an ePUB? What is an ebook? We've all seen ebooks, or most of you have probably seen them. Some of you probably already have them. And what that means is you have either a Kindle app or you've downloaded an ePUB from your library. You've seen ebooks in the past. Now, the original format, or the format that's most common for ebooks, is a format called ePUB. So just like there's a format called TIFF and JPEG, PNG, and GIF, there's one called .ePUB, ePUB. That is an actual format. It's an actual standard. And just like every other format, that format has evolved over the years. So now we're on ePUB 3.0. That's the actual format that ebooks that InDesign can create are put out in. So for example, the person that asked about CS6 can't do ePUB 3.0 fixed layout. So that'll be one of the things you'll be missing right off the bat. Now, the format itself was originally to be mostly text. Yeah, you could scatter some images in here and there, but it was mostly a text format. And it was a reflowable format. So if you were looking at it on a 30-inch display, the ebook would fill up the 30 inches all the way from left to right. So you'd be reading like this. If you were looking on a smaller display, it would condense down and rewrap, and everything would be on a smaller display. If you're looking at it on your phone, it would rewrap, and everything would look good on your phone. And you could increase the point size and decrease the point size. You can even pick in certain readers what font you want to read the book in, so forth and so on. That's the original format. So as you might imagine, that format is good for text, for books that are novels or books that are very text intensive. What it's not good for, or at least what it wasn't good for back in those days, is sophisticated layouts like what we're looking at now. This would completely fall apart in the original ePUB standard because there was no concept of putting text on top of a picture. There was no concept of the text staying where it is or the images staying where they are in all the different ebook readers. So ePUB standard 3.0 evolved to allow for a fixed layout, one that doesn't reflow, one that doesn't move, similar to what a PDF looks like. No matter what size screen you're looking at a PDF on, nothing's moving around. The PDF the way it looks. If you're looking at a manual for your camera, a PDF manual for your camera or your car or some gadget you bought, you expect the pages to look the same no matter what size screen you're looking at, whether it's your computer, your tablet, or your phone. So think of ePUB 3.0 being like the PDF standard in that it doesn't move around and it can also be interactive. So hopefully that explains the differences between ePUB and what you guys, I would say, hold on for a second here. Let's go in and we have for those of you who are watching the replay, I'm taking a second. We've got someone who's just consistently spamming it might even be a bot, spamming the comments here, just putting the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to proactively do something that the moderators don't like to do, but I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, person. Yeah, we don't like your constant spam, so you're out of here. All right. Okay. hopefully that will take care of they were just like putting the same thing over and over and over and over again in the chat. All right, so let's take a look at that finished product. I have it here on my iPad Pro. Actually, yeah, I don't need the keyboard right now. All right, and let me bring it up on the screen so you guys can see it. All right, so here's my iPad Pro. I'm going to search for my iBooks app. There it is. And when I bring up iBooks, now iBooks is Apple's built-in ebook reader. So Apple's ebook reader is called iBooks. If you're on Android, you'll have a different one. If you're on Windows, you'll have a different one. So it doesn't really matter what the ebook reader is called or who makes it or what platform it's on, as long as it understands ePUB 3.0. Okay, so that's the thing. And iBooks definitely understands ePUB 3.0. So in the upper left corner, you actually see that play on document that I was just looking at. And next to it, you see my Holiday Gadget Gift Guide. Next to it, you see Julianne Kost's window seat book. All three of those were done in InDesign. And all three of those are now on my device. So I'm going to go ahead and show the play on. Here it is. This is the one that we just looked at in InDesign. So just like any other ebook, you can swipe your finger to get to the next page. And as we see, this one's got some animations in it. Also, you'll notice that in the lower left-hand corner, it's got a slideshow, left and right arrows. So I can tap the little arrows to jump to the next picture. I can swipe left or back to the right and see the animation for the original cover document. I can go back and forth in this document all day long. And if we go forward again, you'll notice that there is a movie in the lower left-hand corner. You also see the little music or the little audio status in the upper left corner, kind of panning the page. There's a movie that I can actually play the movie. And yes, the movie does have we probably don't hear it because I have all my speakers muted. But there's sound, and I can also tap on that movie and make it go full screen. So I can actually watch that full screen video in my ePUB. And again, this document was built 100% in InDesign CC without writing any code. So this can all be done by us mere mortals who don't necessarily do any coding whatsoever. All right. Oops, hang on. So there's this one, and again, now notice in the upper right-hand corner, there's a Twitter and Facebook icon. Those are hyperlinks, which InDesign's been able to do for a long time. And there's another movie if I want to play it. There's another animation going in the left-hand corner, just kind of panning the page or panning that corner. And if we go here, another movie thing or another things that slide out, another panning, you get the idea. So this is all interactive. Those links can be tapped on that will actually go to the websites in question, Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud. The movies will play with their sound and audio. Any animations that are in here will play. And this is and you notice that the layout stays the same. Now, if I turn my device, the layout did not reflow. It just got smaller. So that's the difference between a fixed layout ePUB and one not fixed. If this were just a regular ePUB textbook, then the page would have still been the whole height of my device and it just would have reflowed the text. But in a design like this, you would never want that to happen. You want stuff jumping all over the page because you're designing your book, in this case, probably the way it looked in print. And you want people to basically have the same experience that they had with the print book as far as the layout is concerned on the electronic version with the addition of animation, the addition of videos, the addition of things that you can't have in print. So no matter which way I look at it, no matter what size device I look at this on, this layout will look the same. So even if I look at this on my iPhone, which is a much smaller display, it will still look like this. It'll just be smaller. And you can pinch and zoom. So I can pinch and zoom to the areas that I want to read if I'm having a hard time reading them because they're too small. And I can, of course, go back out. So that is what we're going to be working on today. And I'm just going to show you some of the things that we are going to do to make this happen. So let me go back to InDesign. And just checking for questions real quick here, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Yes, that was the finished product. Okay, so now let's look at this document in InDesign. So now I'm going to show you a tip right off the bat for those of you who are going to be doing this. InDesign, if you don't change the workspace, will always default or start off defaulting to the Essentials workspace. Hang on, I zoom in properly on it. Let's go up there. So I'm on the Essentials workspace because that's what I left it on for you guys to see it. If you're going to be creating an interactive document, and let me also explain, there's more than one use case for interactive documents. There's an interactive document like the one we just saw that we can share on a device. We can put it on our website, people can download it, they can put it on any device as long as they have an ePUB reader. There's also a new technology built into InDesign CC called Publish Online. So you see the button for it right there. The Publish Online button says, I want to take this interactive document that I just built, and instead of making a file that people download and look at on a device, I just want to put it in a web browser. I want to let Adobe host it, and I can give them a link, give my friends, colleagues, whoever, a link, and they can just go to it in their browser and interact with it. So it's not ePUB, and I made that mistake one time, as I said, it's like ePUB on the web, and people went nuts, and they thought, oh no, ePUB can be on the web now. No. It's not ePUB on the web. It's not. It is Publish Online that feels like that format on the web. It's not that format on the web. So let's make that very clear. ePUB is for devices. It's not in a web browser. However, if you hit Publish Online, it will give you all the same kind of interactivity in a browser hosted by Adobe, and that's just a feature of Creative Cloud. That's not ePUB on the web. So I had like 100 tweets about that the last time I made that connection, and people kind of went nuts. All right, so instead of Essentials, we're going to switch it to digital publishing. Now there is one called Book, and that's not the one you want because that's for creating printed books. It gives you all the tools necessary for doing book work. The reason I want you to switch to digital publishing is because that's going to give you all the interactive tools. So when I switch to that workspace, it turns on all the panels, and hang on, let me reset it because I've been messing with it. Let me reset digital publishing. All right, this is the way it'll look when you bring yours up. So it just gives all the panels on the right-hand side about animation, timing, media, object states, buttons, frames, hyperlinks, all the stuff you would use for digital publishing, which includes ePUB. And then you still have all your regular panels. They're just collapsed in another column on the right-hand side. So I would say if you're going to do this kind of work, this is the best workspace to start off with. And of course, you can customize it. You can get rid of panels you're not going to use and add more panels in that you are going to use and save it and call it your own workspace. So like I've got one called TWDP for Terry White Digital Publishing. All right. So we've got that in place now. Where does the file live? Is it inside your Creative Cloud Drive or somewhere else? Well, it depends on which file you're talking about. The InDesign file lives wherever you save it. The ePUB lives wherever you export it to. The Publish Online lives on Adobe's servers. So it depends on which file you're talking about. What's the file extension when it's published? Depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the ePUB, it's .epub, or the ebook, it's .epub. That's the file extension. If you're talking about the Publish Online, there is no file extension. It uploads it and creates a site for you or page for you that has nothing to do with a file or file extension. So good questions, and it shows that you're thinking about where we're going from here. Is InDesign CC pixel based or vector? Will you see distortion? InDesign, like Illustrator, is vector-based, and of course it can have pixel documents in it, like pictures. Can you publish a custom FTP? Not publish online. Publish online is a specific feature of Creative Cloud that is hosted by Adobe. No other options at this point. But ePUB, you can do whatever you want with it. It's a document. You can put it on your FTP site. You can put it on your web server. You can email it. You can do whatever you want. So it depends on, again, which one you're talking about. All right, looks like we got all of those what can I do with this after I'm done question out of the way. So now let's show you what you're going to do. All right, so if I bring up my Pages panel, we can see that this is a 14-page document. So got this one organized in left and right spread. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, so forth and so on, all the way down to 14. So I can put that away for now, and then I can just scroll through the pages. And we can kind of see that same layout, as we would expect, the same layout that we saw in the iPad. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this picture looks very, very pixelated. It looks very like low res and something's wrong with this photo. Is there anything wrong with it? And that's an old default for InDesign. InDesign is always defaulted from day one to, here, let me go to View, and let me show you what, Display Performance. It's always defaulted to something called Typical Display. And Typical Display was designed back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever InDesign came out, for computers that weren't fast enough to display things high res. So it would keep things moving really quick because it wouldn't waste time displaying high-res things on screen. Of course, when you print and export, you get the high-res version and it doesn't look pixelated like this. So, but now computers are much, much faster. We have GPU support. We have all these things that make it faster. So you can go ahead and feel comfortable in switching your whole document to high-quality display. And that should render everything out. There we go. So now look at how much better that photo looks. And will it impact your performance in InDesign? Well, it depends. It depends on your computer and your the amount of high-res graphics you have in it. So it will stay proxy or low res as I'm panning around till I let go on a page, and then it will snap to the full resolution. And again, that has no bearing whatsoever on the final output. The final output will be the high res that I'm looking at right now. So if you want to keep things moving quickly, then yeah, go ahead and switch your view or keep your view in Typical Display. It's totally up to you. And you can override it on an image by image basis. And here's a good one. Does the user have to download a special app to their device to view the output? It depends on their device. So for example, Apple devices, iOS, Mac OS, they all have the iBooks app as part of the OS. In other words, you don't download iBooks anymore. It comes pre-installed on everything you have. So in that case, on Apple devices, no. On Android devices, I don't think they come with ebook readers yet. Here, let me do this because I knew this question would come up. I just posted a link to the chat of where you can get all the various ePUB readers for all the various platforms. So again, the question was, does the user have to download something? Maybe. It depends on what they're on. And so there's the link of all the various ePUB readers on all the various platforms that support 3.0. And for those of you who are in the, didn't mean to do that. For those of you who are watching the replay and you're saying, I don't see the chat, how do I get that link? Let's do a new document really quick here. All right, let's do it this way. Let's go ahead and start building our document the way we would want to build it from scratch anyway. So let's say we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 14 pages. We don't have to do 14 pages. We can do more than 14 pages, up to you. And although this is set in points and picas, I'm going to type it in inches because that's what I know. So 5.5 IN. It will do the math. 8.5 IN. So I'm making basically, if you were to take an 8.5 by 11 sheet and fold it in half, that would be the size of my pages. All right, facing pages, yes, and click OK. All right, so there's my document. And for the people that are saying, I'm watching the replay, I don't have the link that you just published. Let me give it to you guys as well. Oops. Oh, sorry, I didn't click into it before it did it. All right, so here's your link. It is simply twhite.me/EPUB3 readers. I made that link a long time ago because that question kept coming up. Where do I get the reader, or where does my client get the reader if they don't have one? And so we'll stick it out there for people that are going to be watching this. All right, so that's the link, and I'll pause for a second while I look over here, because on a replay, you guys can just pause it and copy it. You don't have to wait. So twhite.me/EPUB3 readers. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, and that link that's a page that's constantly maintained as new readers come out. So I just linked to it, so that way you guys will always have the latest and greatest readers. Okay, let's go back to our other document. And so we talked about the typical display, keeping things going fast. And now let's talk about some of the interactivity and animation. So now that we've switched to this digital publishing workspace, that brings up the animation panel first and foremost. And that is the one that you're going to do the most work in for your animations. So when I bring that panel up, it doesn't show anything because I don't have anything selected right now. But if I click on this play on, you'll notice that the play on is set to fade in on page load for 1 second and just do it once. Now, and the speed is based on the preset. I didn't make any speed changes. So basically it was just a click on that graphic and choose fade in. That's all you had to do to make this work. So for example, let's say I delete that. I delete that action. And I'm going to go ahead and also add it to a library here so we can use it in our other document. So I'll just show you guys how this works. All right, let's add it. I think I have a Twitch library, and I do, for all the Twitch things we've been working on. I'm going to go ahead and add this into that library. And there it is. So my play on's been added to that library. All right, so now if we go back to our other document, I'm going to show you how to build one of those from scratch. Now, first thing that's different right off the bat from this document that we just created is if you look at it, if you look at the layout in the Pages panel, you have facing pages, but page 1 is by itself, and page 14 is by itself. And that's the typical facing pages kind of document, because if you think about it, a 14-page book, where there's probably something that's the cover, and you have the cover looking at you, and then you open the cover and you see 2 pages. Well, same thing here. The cover is always by itself, and then when you go down to the next 2 pages, you see them side by side. Now that's okay for print, and that's even okay for digital or EPUB, but what if you want it to look like this one? You want it to look like all the pages, even on the cover, is just going across from left to right. And then you have page 2 on the left-hand side, page 3 on the left-hand side, page 4, page 5, page 6. You want them all to be side by side. And people scratch their heads all day long trying to make that happen, and it just doesn't work. And it does work. You just have to know the secret sauce to make it work. All right, so here we go. We go back up to page 1, which is by itself by default. It always will be when you do facing pages. And you say, oh, I want page 1 to actually be on the left side and page 2 to be next to it. How do you make that happen? Well, here's the secret sauce. If you right-click on any page, You'll notice that there is two checks. There's one that says allow document pages to shuffle, and one that says allow selected spread to shuffle. This is the first one is the one we're concerned about, because as long as that's checked in the Pages panel flyout menu, you'll never be able to get what you're trying to get. You'll never be able to get page 1 to be on the left side with page 2 next to it. It won't happen as long as that's selected. So what you're going to do is just simply turn that off. So now when I right click and go back to it, that's turned off. So now I can do what I want. And so what I would do is just take page 1 and drag it to the left. There we go. As soon as I drag, it's fighting me now. There we go. As soon as I drag page 1 to the left, I could now put page 2 next to it. And I can drag page 3 to the left and put page 4 next to it. And do you have to do it manually like this? Probably there might be a simpler way that I'm not thinking of right now, but because if you had hundreds of pages, this would be a pain in the butt. Oh, and I did it wrong. Hang on. Let's do that last one. There we go. And I don't know that there's an easier way to do this. I've never seen one. And it is very picky of where you drag and let go. So you got to wait till you see that little bracket, then you can let go and you know you're doing it the right way. There we go. Get the little bracket and get the little bracket. Okay. So now I've got the exact same thing. I've got page 1 and 2 next to each other, 3 and 4 next to each other, so forth and so on. Okay. Yeah, there might be some macro. There's probably a way to do it, and I have to think about it. I can't imagine that you'd have to do that for 1,000 pages, but we got it done for now. I'll come back maybe with a tips and trick on once I think about how to do it a different way. But anyway, we've got our pages left and right next to each other, so I'm going to do two things. I'm going to bring on that play on in just a minute, the one we put into the library. But before we do that, I'm going to add a panel on the left and maybe the right hand side. So let's do this. Let's grab the regular rectangle tool and let's draw out a panel. And these are just for visual reference. They don't serve any purpose other than design. So I've got this panel and I want to fill this panel with a color. So I can actually use one of the colors that's in my library here. I believe so, or no, I have to drag that out? I forgot how to use the colors from the color themes. Oh, wrong thing, that's why. I had the wrong thing selected. I had the stroke selected, not the fill. And it keeps wanting to do it on the fill, not the stroke. So we'll toggle it. Okay. So I've got that color in place now to where, I see why. There we go. There we go. Okay, I had the stroke selected, not the fill. So I can make this any one of these colors from the themes that we've been collecting with the Capture app or grabbing from a photo or whatever. So make it whatever color you want. So now that I've got a color there, I don't want it to be rectangle. I want it to be kind of a, like a triangle or just something not completely rectangle. So I can do that a couple of ways. I can go to my pen tool, and with the pen tool I can click on an existing point, and you'll notice that when I hover over an existing point it changes to a minus, which means it's going to delete that point, and that's exactly what I wanted. So now that will convert it into my triangle. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Actually, we can just take this one. We'll just duplicate this one because I want it to be the exact same size. So I'm holding down my Option key and dragging it, and then we'll just rotate it the other way. We'll just flip it over and rotate it the other way, and of course we can make that a different color. There we go. So we've got our two panels, and we've got our two panels. We've got The next thing I want to bring on is the play on. So we go back to our Creative Cloud we're in our Creative Cloud library, and we drag our play on from the other document right in place. Let's do that. There we go. And now we can put this wherever we want that as well. So let's say we want that one kind of right in the middle. All right, so now I've got my 3 elements and I want to animate them onto the page. And of course I can keep putting more stuff on, photographs and everything else to kind of make it look like that other document. And by the way, these panels that are here in the other document were transparent. So let's bring the opacity of those down to maybe 50%. Same thing for this one. Bring the opacity down to maybe 50%, so that whatever we do put behind them, they will be transparent. And last but not least, we'll slide that one all the way over. Okay, so I've got everything in place. Now it's time to animate it. So I go to my animation panel, put my library away there, and now I just decide what I want to happen to each object. So I select the first panel on the left-hand side, and I want it to animate in from the left side. So how do I want that to happen? Well, you notice there is this wonderful thing called preset. When I go to preset and choose, I can do whatever I want. These are all built in. So if I want it to, just for the sake of being silly, bounce right large, it would do what the butterfly is doing. Now, let's say I want to, that's showing me what the animation does, but I don't know what it's going to do on my panel. So there's a preview icon in the majority of these digital publishing panels. So there's one for animation, a preview. And notice if I hover over it, what it says. It's a preview for ePUB or option click for Swift, which is Flash. So we don't want Flash right now, we just want ePUB. So if I click and make this bigger and play it, that's what that panel does. Do I want that? No. I just wanted to show you what it would do. Now, I can keep that panel open if I want and just make my change. So I don't want it to bounce in from the whatever. I want it to fly in from the left. So it'll just fly in just like that. So now if we play this back, it flies in. Perfect. That's exactly what I want it to do. Just fly in just like that. So that's how easy it is to animate something. Now, if I go in here and I want to make this one obviously fly in from the other side, we would choose fly in from right, like that. All right, so now here's the thing that you got to realize about the way these animations work. When I play this, watch what happens. It'll do exactly what I told it to do to the letter. First one comes in, second one comes in. All right, keep that in mind for a minute. Let's do one more. Now let's do the play on, and I don't want it to fly in. I just simply want it to, just like in the other document, fade in. So fade in, it'll just come in place. So now if we preview that again, what's going to happen? 1, 2, 3. So if you haven't caught on by now, what you may have noticed, or what you haven't noticed if you haven't caught on, is that the animations happen in the order you create them in. So I animated the first panel first, it happened first. I animated the second panel second, it happened second. I animated the play on third, it happened third. And if I animate 15 things on this page, then it's going to take 15 things to come in one by one. And that may not be what you want. For example, maybe I want the panels to slide in together and then play on to fade up. That probably would look better. So let's go in and make that happen. Let's go into another panel called timing. So that's why we went to that workspace, so that all these panels would already be here. So if we go to timing, you notice that it's polygon, polygon, play on, because it doesn't know what these things are called. They're polygons as far as it's concerned. So I can select polygon number 1 and polygon number 2, and there's a link button right there on the bottom of the timing panel. So if I link them together, now they're linked together. And by the way, you can also drag things in order. So if you had some inspiration 5 animations in and you kind of said, oh, this would even be better if it happened first, you can drag it up to play first. So now if we preview this, the panel should slide in first and then play on should fade up. On the panels, play on fades up. What if they're happening too fast? Then you can also go in and you can select the delay. You can select how many times, but it's easier to go back to each one of these and change the duration. So if I wanted to take 2 seconds instead of 1 second for each one of these, I can make these happen 2 seconds and make the fade stay at 1. Oh, hang on. I don't know what I'm doing there. Clicking the wrong thing. All right, we got 2 seconds now. So now if we preview that, it'll just slow it down just a little bit. Slowly, and then play on. And of course we don't see all the play on because it's kind of fading into white, so we need to put something behind it. But that's how the animation works. So now I'm going to pause for a second, look over at my chat here and make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, some people are making some comparisons to PowerPoint, and while PowerPoint and Word and InDesign and Illustrator and Photoshop, they all share certain things that are in common, like they all can place a picture. It doesn't mean it's the same thing. So in this case, yeah, some of these animations may be reminiscent of what you've done in PowerPoint, but InDesign as a whole does a million more things than PowerPoint does. And for presentations, I'm sure PowerPoint does a million more things than InDesign does. But yes, you will see similarities across the board in lots of applications. All right. Now, for example, you'll notice that each one of these has a path. And so if I click on this one, we see this little green path. And if I click on this one, we see this little green path. And you might have guessed, you wouldn't see it unless you could do something with it. So that path is fair game for you to control. So if I add or work with, oops, hang on. I don't know if I do it that way or this way. Hold on for a second. Hold on, I saw something there a minute ago. Click to edit. So there's a motion path, and I can now click on it. There we go. Add a point. I can add a curve point. If I click in the right spot, I keep missing it. What I was going to show you had I clicked on that with the right point is that I can change the direction, or there we go. There we go. I can make a Bezier curve to that animation and to that point. So we'll get rid of that one. And now we'll go ahead and adjust this more. So I'm now saying that that comes in like this. So I'm adjusting how that path will happen for that particular bar. Now, is this something I need to do in this case? No, I'm just showing you a feature that you can take advantage of if you want to. So play this one, watch the one on the right. It kind of swooped down a little bit before it came up. And that was because most of the animation's happening off the canvas. So watch it at the very end. Swoops down and then swoops up. So that's because I had it curved down and go up as I did it. Okay, good question. Rick MC is asking, how is ePUB different than Wired, Sports Illustrated, and other digital magazines published online by subscription? Well, Adobe allows InDesign to be used as a tool by magazine publishers like you're referring to, Wired, Sports Illustrated, so forth and so on. The difference is mostly in the distribution model. For example, I use InDesign to make either one, an ePUB or what we call a DPS, Digital Publishing Suite document. Once I've built my document with all the interactivity, I can choose File Export and just make an ePUB, or I can publish it in an app with DPS. So the difference is, number one, with DPS, it's a enterprise type solutions for big publishers like Sports Illustrated and the examples you gave. And they can build an app with our solution and then publish documents or editions, not editions, I'm thinking, God, I'm missing the word here, but they can publish different monthly publications, because I'm missing the word I'm thinking of, to it. And the person only has to download the app one time. If they subscribe to the publication, they'll get their new monthly edition each month, and they don't have to do anything special. Whereas an ePUB is a separate document. It's not tied to an app. It's not tied to a subscription unless you somehow made it part of a subscription. And every time you update it, the person has to download a new ePUB because it's a separate document. So those are some of the differences. And plus, DPS supports way more animations and things you can do than the ePUB 3 standard does. So got to remember that in order for this to work on all those devices I talked about with all those readers I gave you the link to, you have to stick to what ePUB can do. If I start putting in a bunch of things that ePUB can't do, then the user will just never see them. So those are some of the differences between ePUB and DPS, or Digital Publishing Suite. All right. One second here. Cool. What Adobe tools do we need to create an app like that? Well, you need InDesign, and you need a subscription to DPS, which is separate from CC. So with CC, you get the tool to build the publication, but in order to actually make the app and publish it and have subscribers and all that, you need to sign up for Digital Publishing Suite, which starts at all different kinds of price ranges, depends on your volume of publications. It's not for what I would call mom and pop shops like me. For example, if I want to make a newsletter for my organization, DPS is out of my price range. So it's really for the big publications. But InDesign is the tool no matter which one you're going to use. Okay, so now that we've kind of saw what some of the animation is like, let's go back to the animation panel one more time. And we've got that, we've got this, and we talked about timing. Now let's go down a couple pages here, and I'm going to place a few images. Actually, no, I'm going to draw a frame and then place some images, duplicate and place some images into it. All right, so for example, let's draw a frame out. And we're going to create a slideshow. I'm going to show you how you would do that as part of your ePUB. So when I draw my frame out, I can make it any size I want. And the way you want to do this is you do want to make one, whatever size you want them all to be, and then duplicate it. Because then you won't have to worry about dragging out different sizes that are different. So, and by the way, we've got like 12 minutes left. Up next, in 12 minutes, we're going to switch gears. You guys can stay on the stream, and I'm going to disconnect for a split second, come back in, and we're going to do Intro to Photoshop Part 2. All right, so now that I've got this, I'm just going to hold on my Option key or Alt key. Actually, before we do that, one more thing. I'm going to set the fitting for this to auto fit, fill frame proportionally from the center. Okay. So now I can duplicate this by holding down my Option key, and we'll make 1, 3, 4, 5. We'll make 5 frames. All right, so now that I got 5 identical frames with all the same options, we'll go ahead and place, we need 5 images. So let me go find 5 images to put in. We'll go to my demo files here. CC. I'll use, where I know I have some images, I'll use the ones that I use for my Muse slideshows. There we go. All right, I'll just grab 5 random pictures here, because the pictures themselves don't matter. It's just the fact that we are going to show you how this will work. Okay, so I got 5 images loaded. I want the first one to go there, second one to go there, third one to go there, fourth one to go there, fifth one to go there. So now I've got 5 images placed that are all identically the same size. They're 5 different images. And so what I'm going to do now is select all 5 frames, and we're going to align them so they're perfectly sitting on top of each other. So I want to align their centers and align their vertical centers. Now there are 5 frames sitting on top of each other, and they're still selected. So 5 different things stacked right on top of each other. So now that I got those 5 things, I'm going to go to my Object States panel. And Object States actually originated from that person that was asking earlier about DPS. This is one of the DPS features that we first implemented in InDesign so that people can build these kinds of interactive things. So with the 5 things selected, 5 frames, I'm just going to click Add a New One, and it will basically convert all of those into object states. So state 1 is the first picture, state 2 is the second picture, so forth and so on. And it kind of grouped them together for the sake of being a slideshow. Now, if I don't do anything else, if I publish this, the person would be able to swipe through those pictures and they would change, but they wouldn't know that they can do that. There's no indicator that tells them that's a slideshow. They would just think it's a single picture. They would have no idea that they can swipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them some buttons to make it so that they can interact with the slideshow. Now, I don't have time to design a button. I mean, I could make anything be a button real quick, but I'm going to show you a resource that's kind of built in InDesign, kind of hidden. So we'll bring out the Button and Forms panel, and inside the Button and Forms panel, there's a flyout menu called Sample Buttons and Forms. The secret hidden graphics that are built into InDesign for your form design, including arrows. Now, these aren't the most attractive arrows in the world, but for the sake of we have to finish this in the next 9 minutes, we're going to use these. All right, so I'm going to drag out this one. We'll put this one over here. All right, and we'll drag out this one. And again, your buttons can be anything you want them to be. They don't have to be these graphics. You don't have to use these samples. You can design buttons any way you want. All right, so now that we've got our buttons in place, we need to tell InDesign using the Button and Forms panel what those buttons are for, what they're going to do. So I'm going to select the left button, and right now it just says it goes to the previous page. If I don't do anything else, someone taps that button, it's going to go back a page. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to remove that action. We're going to add an action that says it goes to the previous state of the multi-state object, which is the one we just created. Now, we didn't name that multi-state object. If we go back to our object states, click on it, we could actually name this slideshow. Slideshow 1, slideshow travel, whatever you want to call it. So now that we've named that, we go back here and it goes to previous state of slideshow travel. All right, so now we click this one, get rid of that action, add it, select next state of the slideshow travel. That's it. That's all we had to do to make those buttons navigate those pictures. So now if we, I don't know if we can preview this with interactivity or not. Let's see. Yep, it does work. Okay, so you can actually navigate the slideshow right there, and the person would now know, hey, those buttons must mean I can tap on them and click on them, and it would navigate through the pictures of the slideshow. All right. Okay, just making sure I don't miss anything real quick. We got 7 minutes left. Okay, so that's a slideshow now, and we can get rid of buttons and forms for now. Let's go in and talk about, oh, I didn't really mean to close buttons and forms. I meant to put buttons and forms away. All right, let's put it back away. Okay, next up we want to talk about video. So your ePUB can have video, just like the videos we saw earlier, and can have hyperlinks. So for example, if I want to put in a hyperlink, let's do a hyperlink first since that's faster. Join us on twitch.tv/Adobe. Well, I actually want someone to be able to tap on that to actually go to that website. So what I can do is highlight just that text, and I go to my hyperlinks panel, and I can put that in. Oh, had it had the hyperlink in it, or the HTTP, it would have detected it automatically. All right, but I'll put that in, and it will now go to that link. And notice that little green button came up. That's fairly new in CC, where it kind of went out and tested that to see if that's a real site. If not, it would have been red. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right site. It just means that there's a site out there called twitch.tv/Adobe. And of course, you can format this any way you want. So you can make that blue with an underline under it, or different color so that people know that it's an actual hyperlink. And it looks like there is some shading that's going to happen anyway. Let's see what it looks like here. Nope, not quite. All right, so let's highlight that. And let's make that a different color. We'll make it that color just for now. All right, so anyway, that's the way that would look. And someone could now tap on that link and it would actually take them. So see my fingers hovering over it. It will take them to that website in their ebook reader. Now, whether their ebook reader has a browser built in or it takes them out to the other browser built on the device is up to the ebook reader. All right, last but not least, what would I do for video and audio? Well, you would place it just like anything else. So if I do a place, question is, where do I have videos? Maybe in here. All right, those unfortunately are not going to work because they're not the right format. Let's go to there, Premiere Pro. All right, we'll use my Bridezilla movie because it's simple and quick. All right, I can click to drag this out. And now I placed a movie that, again, we probably want to make sure that fits the frame. And now that video will play. But again, what will happen, and here we can go, by the way, and check something real quick. Let's go to the media panel, which it shows me the movie. Shows me the movie playing. And what I can do is scrub through the movie till I get to a certain spot that I like. And I can say, set the poster from the current frame. What the poster is what people will see when they are looking at your ebook. Instead of just a black frame because it fades in from black, you might actually want them to see some of the video. Now, they still may not know it's a video. So the same kind of thing applies. You might want to put an overlay on top of it that's a play button, or put a play button near it, or the word play, or tap to play the video. Some instruction that lets them know that that's not just a still picture, it's an actual video that they could tap on and play. Now, as far as the controller, right now it says none. You can say show controller over rollover. So now if I were to look at this again, preview, there's my controller. So you can have all of that be present or not, or you can have it not be present constantly, but just when they roll over it. And of course they get the full screen option. All right, last but not least, since we only got 2 minutes left, so now let's talk about how do we get this out of here. So we've designed 4 of our pages already. Of course, we haven't really finished, but let's go to File and Export. When we go to File and Export, one of your choices is ePUB Fixed Layout, which is new in CC, or reflowable, which is the one we don't want. That means text and images will be all over the place. It will not respect our layout. So we want fixed layout. It's going to make a .epub document, and we'll call it test. Put it out on the desktop, save it. Notice it says it's going to use ePUB 3.0 for interactivity. We want all the pages. We want the net. We can put a TOC or table of contents in, so it will do it. We can add metadata to make it more searchable, viewable, so forth and so on. It will export it and open it up in iBooks after the fact, and we can go ahead and just do all of that. I don't think there's anything else I want to change. We can also tell it how to treat the graphics, what resolution to put them out in, to make them higher res or not. And I'm just going to go ahead and say OK. Yep, I know. OK. And now it's asking me, do I want to sign into the bookstore, which I don't. But there's my play on document. We'll open it up. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is I didn't tell it to export as spreads. Oh, but it's time's up. So only thing I didn't check off the spreads option, which would put the two pages next to each other. But my ePUB is there, ready to go. And for those of you who are here, this is going to be weird because each page is not a spread until it's after the first page. But that was my fault, because there is an option in the export that tells it to do that. So if you're just joining me for the intro to Photoshop, that will start right now. Just wanted to show this last option. I should have said, where's my spreads control, all pages. Yes. Oh, it's in here somewhere. There's a checkbox for outputted as spreads, and I missed it somehow. It's in here. Ranges, restaurants, first cover, none. Actually, yes. All right, I missed it. I'd have to go back and find it. But anyway, that would be it. That's how to make an interactive PDF or ePUB for all the various ePUB 3 readers out there. So if you're here, if you're just getting here for the intro to Photoshop, I'm going to be right back with that. I'm going to stop this stream. You guys don't have to go anywhere if you're watching live. And we'll start right back up with intro to Photoshop in less than a minute. Guys, take care. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in less than 60 seconds. Hang on.